We're not going to sugarcoat it. The problem is real, and it's happening here.
The last time I told her I wanted to kill myself was in elementary school, but I'm now starting to get bullied a lot by this one girl at school.
So this says that you knew there was asbestos when you talked to Bobby, and you're telling me that you don't recall any of this, that you don't remember seeing this, and this is saying
I don't even know
otherwise.
I don't even know when this was done.
I never thought I'd ever see this car again.
It's the car his family loaned to Arnold Palmer back in 1972 for the Masters.
Suicide is now the second leading cause of death for teens in the U.S. Our I-Team found youth suicides are climbing faster than suicides in other age groups. A little earlier this month, a 9-year-old in Alabama took her own life, 9 years old. So what's changing here? Experts tell us it's a problem with a lot of layers, but social media is one of them. We're not going to sugarcoat it. The problem is real, and it's happening here.
The last time I told her I wanted to kill myself was in elementary school, but I'm now starting to get bullied a lot by this one girl at school.
That's Caitlin. Her friends call her Tinkerbell, but her best friend Naomi no longer calls her at all. She took her own life 7 months ago. She was 14 years old.
People was going on Facebook, online, talking about her, saying stuff on her posts, and it just got to her, I guess.
We'll never know all of the emotions and the layers that pushed Naomi to feel she had no other choice, but we do know what the world lost.
She was really sweet, very talented. She was very beautiful. She was a good friend. She was always there for me when I needed her.
Why do you think she couldn't see all of those things?
Even though she tried to be strong, they kept bringing her down. And I guess she just forgot how much she meant.
Naomi's death illustrates one chapter of a story Special Agent Trevor Randall is trying to put words to.
We were noticing multiple kids coming in to our morgue every month. There was no rhyme or reason to it.
She and her team at the GBI investigate every child death in Georgia, and they've been investigating a lot of suicides lately, enough to call it a crisis.
Well, a mother that we talked to found out that her child had a plan. She had stockpiled scissors. She was 11 years old. What did she know about taking her own life?
They used to call it teen suicide. Now it's youth suicide. Nationwide, suicide rates for kids 5 to 14 have nearly tripled since 2007.
Because now our 9, 10, 11-year-old kids are committing suicide. It's getting younger.
In 2016, Special Agent Randall's heels clicked through the quiet morgue a record 54 times to investigate youth suicides in Georgia alone. South Carolina's numbers are even worse. The orange line is South Carolina. This blue line is Georgia. And these are all kids under 16 who have taken their own lives since 2006. Experts have not been able to nail down one single cause for this spike, but you can't ignore social media.
One mean girl or one mean boy says something about you, but now somebody else picks it up and they share it and they share it and they retweet it. And now all of a sudden there's 100 bullies or there's 1,000 bullies.
And unlike our generation or our parents' generation, kids don't leave the bullies behind when they get off the school bus.
They're not just getting it at school, they're getting it at home too.
That's Caitlin's mom, who's seen words on a 5-inch screen make her daughter feel about that tall.
He told her to go into another room and take a knife and he said, just go in there and kill yourself. Just end your life because you're worthless.
Do you worry what could have happened if your daughter didn't have the relationship she does with you and didn't show you that message?
Yes, ma'am. I just thank God she did.
A Pew Research study found 90% of teens say online harassment is a problem that affects people their age. Experts also know increasing screen time on electronic devices is a marker for depression. And while the GBI cannot point to social media as the single cause for why more kids are taking their lives, they do know something has to change.
We just want everyone to open their eyes because we know now the kids are in crisis. The kids in Georgia are in crisis. What we do about it is up to us.
Before the world loses more Naomis. Our I-Team uncovered documents proving workers and volunteers on a public housing project were exposed to asbestos. At the center of it all is the public housing director. What did she know, and how long did she wait to tell others? Imagine you spend your day off work volunteering to find out later your health could suffer because of your good deed.
Well, in hindsight, I wouldn't let anybody go in it.
That's Kelly Evans. She's the executive director of the East Georgia Housing Authority. She oversees hundreds of homes for low-income families in Thompson, Warrenton, Harlem, and Crawfordville. As director, she wanted to buy this house on Clement Street in Thompson and turn it into transitional housing.
And I told them, then you've got to have an environmental review, and I can't pay for it. And the gentleman who owned the property, he did that.
The environmental review she requested found asbestos in the floor and ceiling. The report says the materials must be removed by a licensed asbestos abatement contractor. That report was addressed to attention Miss Kelly S. Evans.
I approved the purchase of the property. I don't ever remember seeing the environmental review.
About a dozen Georgia Power workers spent their MLK Day volunteering to clean up the house. Alongside maintenance workers for the Housing Authority, they gutted it, taking down the walls and tearing out chunks of the ceiling. The same ceiling, the report says, contained asbestos, friable asbestos to be exact, which means it crumbles easily. If you breathe in enough, years later, you may develop serious health issues. OSHA is very clear. There is no safe level of asbestos exposure. Kelly Evans says she never saw this document with her name on it because her son was very sick around this time. She says she did not know there was asbestos in the house until after the work was done, and she spoke to the architect.
And he said, "You do realize there's asbestos in there?" And I said, "No, actually I didn't."
I guess what we're having trouble with is that we have this document with your signature that says, "I have no idea why they took down the walls. I told Bobby to leave the floor and ceiling because of asbestos." Okay. So this says that you knew there was asbestos when you talked to Bobby, and you're telling me that you don't recall any of this, that you don't remember seeing this, and this is saying
I don't even know
otherwise.
when this was done.
But a follow-up report that also went to Evans recommends she do 4 things. At the top of that list, notify all parties that worked in the structure. Advise them they may have been exposed to asbestos-containing dust.
When did you tell everyone about the asbestos?
Right. So I notified Georgia Power the following year.
Why did you wait so long to tell Georgia Power?
Honestly, it was not something that I was trying not to do. It was just something that I didn't do.
But when I called the head volunteer on the project, the asbestos was news to him. This is part of a statement Georgia Power sent me. At the time the volunteer work was conducted, we were not aware of any concerns regarding the site in question. Last week, we received confirmation from the East Georgia Housing Authority that there was asbestos present at the volunteer site.
One, I understand that I'm responsible. There's no doubt about that. I'm the executive director, and this was my responsibility. I don't have a problem taking responsibility for it. You know, what I didn't do was I didn't try to hurt anybody.
But the frustrating thing for volunteers, it will take years before they know the effects. There is no treatment for asbestos exposure except prevention.
The first time Richard Daniels cranked this 1972 winter white Lincoln, he was a much younger man.
This car is older than you are.
Yes, it is.
It's sheer luck that he gets to pull the wheel of a car he said goodbye to 42 years ago.
I never thought I'd ever see this car again.
It's the car his family loaned to Arnold Palmer back in 1972 for the Masters.
And he left all of his credentials, passes and everything, in the car. I wish I'd have kept them, but I didn't.
I think my brother has it.
The guy in the back, William Tucker, says his grandparents bought the car right after the 72 Masters. His family made their own memories with the car, passing it from grandfather to father to son.
As it turned out, I was just taking care of it for Richard.
The car's third act came after Richard's son saw the car his dad had never stopped talking about sitting in Mr. Tucker's garage.
It just felt right for it to go back to the family, the man where it started.
He bought it the next day and handed the keys to his dad on Father's Day.
I just was overwhelmed. What are the odds of this happening? It was just meant to be.
So meant to be, he wrote a letter to Arnold Palmer, and Arnie wrote back.
Dear Richard, this is quite a story about your 72 Lincoln. This was some big car, and it's amazing that it's still in such good shape. I'm glad you got it back after all those years. Thanks for taking the time to write me and let me know about it. Thanks, too, for picking me up at the airport all those years ago. I didn't win that year, but I sure drove in comfort. Sincerely, Arnold Palmer.
The real treat is the memory of a young man driving his car for the very first time.
And the only thing that brought me back to reality was when I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw that white-haired old man driving the car.